you mentioned the running. I don't think the running back thing impacts me a whole lot because last year they just gave a Heisman away. Like last season, let's just be honest. What was your favorite Travis Hunter moment on his 8-5 football team? Like, what was his Heisman moment? What was your favorite thing that Travis Hunter did last year on his 8-win football team?
Yeah, right. I don't know.
They couldn't.
Maybe that one-handed pick that was supposed to be.
They couldn't give the Heisman away last year, right? And people bring up, and Pete Sampson had his mailbag in the Athletic in today, and he talked about it and why he didn't think Jeremiyah Love, because he won't be able to get the production for it. And he pointed to Ashton Genty and his production, and he was only able to finish second place. And it's like Ashton Genty ran for 2,600 yards, right? Yeah. How many Boise State football games do you think that the average Heisman voter watched last year?
Especially in the South.
Too, like they watched it. They watched the voting. Maybe they watched the Oregon game. That was a late kick. Maybe they watched it, and where he went for 192, and that's how he got himself on some radars. But then it's like, you're playing for Boise State, so you're already in the G5, which is a tough slot. It's, tough sled. How many G5 players have won a Heisman? And then the only thing he had going for him was stat accumulation. It was just like how much stat could he accumulate in games? What was his Heisman moment? Because that's what it really boils down to for a lot of this stuff. It's like, who has that signature Heisman moment or that highlight worthy, we're going to repost that clip 100 times, and that's the Heisman campaign. And I think that for when I look at a Jeremiyah Love, who he's the PFF college football's #1 ranked returning player. He might be the best running back to ever play for Notre Dame talent-wise when all said and done. The things that he does is so incredibly special. It's Saquon Barkley-esque. And, it's fitting. He's got when you talk about his production and his workload, and we were talking about this before, Juwan Sider, the new running backs coach, who was the running backs coach at Penn State, he likes to keep a tight room. So while Dalen liked to rotate in and get 4, 5, 6 guys the ball, Sider does like 3, and it's 2 and then a little bit of a third, and that's why Slade, that's why you feel better about this, is because he's going to get more of a workload. He has the Notre Dame brand, which, Genty did not have. People will watch his games. His game against Miami, I think, is going to be very important in setting a runway for a Heisman campaign, because the eyes of the nation will be on you in that primetime slot on a Sunday night. So, he will have a marquee game where he can sort of put his name out there. And then what does Jeremiyah Love do that America loves? He hurdles people.
Yeah.
He hurdles people. He jumps over people. So if you're putting together a Heisman campaign and you need to start it off against a Miami team that was, you might know better than I, but there were at least half the games, they had over 20 missed tackles, right? Last year.
Oh, the defense was horrendous last year for Miami.
And you got a new DC.
Yep.
Ton of turnover. I'm not sure if you can figure out, I don't think game 1 tackling is going to be demonstratively improved. So for a guy that likes to hurdle and break tackles, it seems like a good spot to sort of plant your stake and get your name in for the Heisman. It helps to get your name out there early, have highlight worthy clips, which he does. And then, oh, by the way, here are your current Heisman odds, and tell me which one of these guys you think is your favorite. So right now the odds on favorite is plus 800, Garrett Nussmeier at LSU, and Arch Manning at Texas. Texas is replacing their receivers, and their offensive line has significant turnover. It's going to be some tough sledding for Arch, but I mean, he has a name, which helps certainly. After Arch, you get Cade Klubnik at Clemson at plus 1,000, Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State at 1,200, which I think he's probably the best receiver in America, but they're breaking in a new quarterback for him, which he's dependent on someone else to get him the ball, which is always hard. Then you have Julian Sayin, his quarterback, at plus 1,300. What's your favorite Julian Sayin snap and pass? Dante Moore at Oregon at 1,600. Sure. Lenore Sellers, which is, okay. I like that one. 1,600. DJ Lagway at Florida plus 1,600. Drew Aller at Penn State. Get out of here. No, not even entertaining that at 1,600. And then Carson Beck at 2,500 at Miami. Which one of those guys is your favorite to win the Heisman?
Oh man. I mean, shoot, the Lenore Sellers one, maybe just for the value, just like
for the value,
for looking at it from that perspective.
It put up rushing numbers, but what are they going to win? 8 games, 9 games?
I don't know how many games South Carolina can win. Arch Manning, it's a very interesting case with the name and everything being at Texas. Like if he could potentially play well, but I got to be honest, I do agree like with what you're saying here. Like if Jeremiah Love can like pounce on Miami, because I think if you're running back, you got to start week 1. I mean, shoot, the Heisman candidacy does start in week 1 in general too, but you aren't afforded the luxuries as maybe some of those quarterbacks that you mentioned on the list. Garrett Nussmeier, I don't know. It's just I don't know if any of those teams are going to have the same amount of success.
That's a big part of it too. And last year they were just begging for someone, because you had a gadget player win the Heisman, and the next player that finished second in the Heisman was a group of 5 guy. Like, there was no one there. There was no one there to win that Heisman. Like they were just begging for someone to give it to, and no one was willing to step up. And you look at this season as well, and I don't see it being any differently. I look, because you always got to look at the quarterbacks and you go, all right, well, which quarterback's coming into this season is going to be the quarterback? And Clay Klubnik's not that guy. Get out of here. I watched him for 3 years. No, absolutely not. Garrett Nussmeier is not that guy. And maybe Arch Manning, but Julian Sayin, if you want to give, why not put CJ Carr on there? If you're putting, like Dante Moore, he has more, he's thrown more pick sixes than I think he's thrown actual touchdowns in his college football career. Okay, but fine. DJ Lagway at Florida. Like, let's see if they can get to a bowl game before you start putting them on Heisman odds. It's just, and then Drew Aller is the ultimate chump. Like, you can get out of here with that. He will never do anything ever of any substance. Like, Drew Aller is a jag. So Carson Beck could be a guy, but he's got to beat Notre Dame if he wants to win that Heisman. That's the reality. Like if Carson Beck beats Notre Dame week 1, then you can talk about a Carson Beck Heisman campaign. And then we're not even talking about Jeremiah Love anyway, because he didn't do what he needed to do. But if Jeremiah Love puts up numbers against a team that can't tackle in a primetime spot, and by the way, he does it with like a hurdle or something ridiculous, which he's capable of doing at any time. Yeah, sure. I mean, he should absolutely be there. Is probably the highest odds non-quarterback, and I don't like any of the quarterbacks that are there, so I kind of like his Heisman campaign.
I mean, if he has 1,600 yards, and
that's the number.
And Price is like, he's there contributing, but it just feels like this offense runs through Love. And I mean, at certain points, certainly felt like that last year, but it just maybe to a different level. And this team does have the same amount of success. I almost hate to even like say like, oh, Love needs the rest of his team to just not play well, but we would be looking at a situation where it would be in spite potentially of like the quarterback play, the receivers. Obviously, the offensive line would deserve, a round of applause if Love were to be a finalist. But I definitely think he can be a finalist. even with all of that. But to win it might be a little tough, just because of the. I don't know if there's like a bias against running backs for this award, but I just think there's maybe a general bias towards quarterbacks. So that's when you see like the betting odds and seeing like those QBs be ranked so high despite maybe not doing much. And there are shots in the dark, and it is in April. But if Love were to get 1,600 yards and maybe the quarterback play is still pretty good, maybe it's where it was last year. And this Notre Dame team is rolling. They're winning. They don't have that loss to, I do think a loss such as the one against NIU last season would really hurt the case. They don't have that. And then maybe they do go 12-0. He should definitely be a finalist in New York. And I think there's going to be some buzz brewing as the season gets closer, where it's like, hey, look, here are the positional players that are most likely to get an invite.
They're not going to need him to run for 2,300, and I don't think that in today's day. I think that when Alshon Jeffrey is gearing up for a Heisman campaign, he needs to put up absurd numbers, right? Because that's the only way that you need to run 37 times for 226 yards against Oregon State if you want to be in the discussion for a Heisman. If you're Ashton Jeanty, if you're Jeremiyah Love, you can run it 8 times for 95 yards and you're good, as long as like that Miami game, that Texas A&M game, the USC game, if in the spots where you need to have your spots and you have the moment, because everything now is a snippet. It's a clip. And if you can put together these hurdles and you can make it their thing. And if Notre Dame's media department, which killed it last year with their videos, I certainly think that they can help in that aspect as well. And I think that he has a lot of early season buzz as being the best running back coming back. I think that it's a real thing. And I think that it needs to be discussed. And I think that if he wants to win a Heisman, the word needs to be put out that this is a real thing and that it needs to be discussed, because I think that a large part of the Notre Dame media is there's an apprehension to do that kind of stuff. But hey, stump for your guys. Like nobody else is going to do it for you. The conference isn't going to do it for you because you don't have a conference. So the media needs to stump for your guys. And if you have a chance to preach the good word of Jeremiyah Love, preach the good word of Jeremiyah Love. He absolutely should be a Heisman contender, and we should take this seriously and we should will it into existence.
The Heisman campaign is a real thing.
Yeah.
That's what it is. You need to be able to prop the player up. Every player is going to have a storyline, a paragraph about them that you can potentially sum up their season, whether that's right or wrong. And that is what potentially pushes them through everything, the media scrutiny and, the media love into the Heisman talk and all the way to New York. And for Jeremiyah Love, like, it's going to take that. And it's nice too, because I think a lot more people like Notre Dame. And I think to have a Heisman contender, that makes it a lot easier,
significantly easier
to like Notre Dame, but also, if you like Notre Dame in general, it certainly helps out Jeremiyah Love.
Josh Adams could have had a Heisman campaign in 2017, and it should have been a Heisman campaign for Quentin Nelson, but they started it so late. The 33 trucking, by the time they had the hats and all that, and it came out, it was already too late. And you have to, if you want to start these campaigns, you got to start them now. And it's no surprise that Travis Hunter won a Heisman. I mean, who's a better salesman than Deion Sanders?
No,
right?
Nobody,
It's been sold for the last 2 years. And so the name Travis Hunter is right there. So you need to do the same thing with Jeremiyah Love, is that when people think about Notre Dame football, they need to think about Jeremiyah Love. And when they think about who's the best running back in America, it needs to be Jeremiyah Love. Here's the clips. Watch him jump over people. This is amazing. Get excited about it. Give him the Heisman. So we need to do our best to just make sure that it's part of the national conversation, because a lot of times Notre Dame can get sort of caught in the wash because they don't have a conference. So they don't have the sort of outside people stumping for them as well. They don't have the conference shills. They have a wonderful national following and a national base, but they don't have conference shills that help sort of pump them up outside of their own.
Mhm.
So we got to be extra vigilant with that.